We have a quick call coming.
Okay. Answer. Second. One second. Let's see again what happened here. It's complicated, obviously. Start it again, Stillian. Because there's no point in that. Monday. Shio. Oh man, this thing.
I still haven't got to the question I have answered to the question I asked you the other day.
1 second. Which one?
About God's nature and the creation of we are created in His image. So does that mean that because our nature is...
Yeah, I'm back. We'll talk. Okay. Jennifer, you're on? Okay, good. Everybody's on. Okay, good. Okay. Erev Tov, good evening to everyone. Roger, great, good. Okay, so today I had the privilege to prepare the class outside. It was so beautiful that I sat outside on the porch, sun, and it was just amazing just to meditate and to think about the class. Prepare it outside rather than inside. I had a chavruta also outside. I told them there's no point of staying inside. Let's learn outside. It was just unbelievable, and it's great. Hopefully we'll have a nice, beautiful week, and we'll continue on this way. So tonight what I would like to speak about Parashat Mishpatim, which is an important parasha. There's a lot of civil laws that are written in this parasha, and I'd like to concentrate on the beginning of the parasha, where, if you look on page 416, ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. So it says, these are the ordinances that you will put in front of them, shall place before them. Ki tikne eved ivri shanim ya'avod uva shevi'it tetze לחופשי חינם. If you buy a Jewish bondsman, he shall work for 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go free. Now, it always bothered me, why would the Torah start a parasha that is going to be talking about civil laws with the idea of being a servant, of being a slave? And therefore, it got me thinking, what is the idea of slavery, and how as Jews we look upon slavery? Is it a good thing? Is it not a good thing? And this is some of the questions that you could see on your sheet, where how can the Torah condone slavery of any kind? Doesn't Hashem desire freedom for all mankind? Right. The fact is, God is the one who commanded us, Ki tikne, if you buy a slave, then 6 shanim ya'avod, 6 years he will work for you, and then on the 7th year you'll let him go. Why would God do that? I mean, we were slaves in Egypt so many years, and therefore we appreciate freedom that came after. Wouldn't we want other people to be free as we are? As Jews, we always, we are out there and we try to advocate on behalf of people who are slaves, but the Torah actually speaks about slavery, and it doesn't seem like the Torah is saying that it's something that is so bad. I mean, you could buy a slave, so what is going on? Second question, how can the Jew become an enslaver after he has been enslaved? Right, same idea. We've been slaves, so forget it. Why should we have slaves? As people who will work for us. And why would God choose to start the parasha with slavery laws? There's so many other civil laws that you could have, and that the Torah speaks about it. It's a beautiful parasha. I mean, when you look at it, the laws that they had at that time, something that before modern civilization came to be with all the laws, the Torah already spoke about that. So the Torah could have chosen. There's plenty of other mitzvot that we have that the Torah could have chosen. So why would the Torah, why would the parasha start with this particular paragraph, psukim, laws of slavery? So a few weeks ago, someone asked me the question about slavery, and in a nutshell, I told this person, I told them, being a slave doesn't mean in any way that you're mistreated. I gave it to him in a nutshell. Being a slave meant, actually the Torah, the Talmud speaks about it and says the following: Kana evet, kana adon le'atzmo. If someone acquired a slave, he actually acquired a master for himself. Why? Because the slave had so many rights that it's as if the master became a slave, working for the person who was working for him. With that in mind, let me share with you some of the laws regarding a servant. And we're talking specifically in this case, I don't know if we'll have time to speak about Evet Kenani, about a Canaanite slave, but we're talking specifically about a Jewish, a Hebrew slave. Okay, so here are some of the laws regarding a Hebrew slave. An individual becomes an Eved Ivri in only one of two ways. Either he becomes so destitute that he can no longer support himself or his family, or is found guilty of the crime of theft and is unable to pay his obligations. So that's the first thing we have to understand. If he steals, he has to pay back. How does he pay back? Becomes a slave. When he becomes a slave, then he pays back whatever he owes. Or it could be that he doesn't have anything, he doesn't have any money. He needs money to live. What does he do? He sells himself. Because he wants to have parnasa, livelihood. In the first of these cases, the individual sells himself into avdut, servitude, in order to accrue the provisions necessary for survival. In the latter instance, the court sells the thief into servitude. The funds accumulated through the sale are applied towards the payment of his debts. So either he sells himself or Beit Din sells him. Next halacha, next law. An Eved Ivri is not owned by his master. He has simply sold the rights to his labor for the tenure of his avdut. Very important to remember. It is not that he is a slave, but he sold, I repeat that, he sold the rights to his labor for the time that he is going to be an Eved, is going to be a slave. An Eved Ivri who is sold into servitude by the court may only be sold for a 6-year period. After that time, he is to be set free. An individual who sells himself into servitude, according to most authorities, may determine the length of his period of avdut. So think about it for a second. This is not the normal slavery that we can think about. What is it?
He determines the amount of time.
Yes, it determines that amount of time. If the Yovel, the Jubilee, the 49th year, falls at any point during an Eved Ivri's period of servitude, the servant is immediately freed. Which means that he started to work today, tomorrow is the Yovel, finished. So think about how many rights the Eved, the slave, had. Furthermore, if an Eved Ivri who has been sold by the court desires to remain in servitude after his 6-year tenure, he must undergo a ritual in which his ear is pierced at the doorpost of his master's home. He then remains in his master's service until the advent of the Jubilee year. Then it's a choice that he has. He wants to stay. We'll see why. Why you have to pierce his ear. But if he wants to stay, that's fine. Let him stay. He could stay. It's his decision. Not the master's, but his decision. Strict regulations circumscribe the treatment of an Eved Ivri at the hands of his master. The Eved Ivri cannot be assigned back-breaking work. Think about that. He may not be physically disciplined. He and his family must receive sustenance and care to such an extent that the rabbis proclaim in the Talmud, as we said before, anyone who purchases the services of an Eved Ivri, it is as if he has purchased a master. Because this master, this servant has rights. And as someone who acquired him, you have to fulfill the rights. If not, the servant could go to the Beit Din, and the Beit Din will obligate the Baal Habayit, the owner, to pay whatever he's supposed to pay. So you see how many different rights he had. If an Eved Ivri acquires the funds necessary to pay off the balance of his tenure, he may do so and thus attain immediate freedom. He owes $5,000, he has the money, that's it, free. Changes in the market value of his labor are always computed in the servant's favor. So look, another right that he has. But more than that, the master of a court sold Eved Ivri may designate a Canaanite maidservant as a concubine for the Eved. The progeny of their union are to be considered Canaanite slaves in the master's employ. This is something that the master has, that's the right. The above laws of servitude only apply to males. A female becomes an Amma Ivriya when, as an underage child, she is sold into servitude by her impoverished father, who is unable to provide for her. So in that case, what they used to do, if the parents couldn't afford whatever the child needed, what was the best way of dealing with it? Selling her. Why? Not because she will be a slave and she'll work hard, but rather we'll see she'll have rights. She'll have many rights and good rights. And we'll see what are these rights. Like an Eved Ivri and Amma Ivriya is freed either at the end of her 6-year tenure with the advent of the Jubilee year or upon payment of the value of the remaining years of service. An additional opportunity for personal advancement is, however, provided for the Amma Ivriya. If she reaches the age of maturity during her tenure as a servant, her master must either offer to betroth her in marriage to himself or to his son, or grant her immediate freedom. So think about that. The master could have gotten married with her. Why? In order for her to have a good life. Something that her parents couldn't provide her with. So think, it's an amazing idea, the idea of being a servant. Because when you read the psukim, the verses, it seems, it's not. And we'll try to develop this idea. Another law is the institutions of Eved Ivri and Amma Ivriya were suspended simultaneously within the suspension of the observance of the Shnat HaYovel, the Jubilee year. Okay, so today we don't have it. We don't have these laws. Because we don't have the whole idea of Yovel doesn't exist anymore, and therefore we don't have it. Now, let's think. Let's analyze this idea. So, being an Eved Ivri, being a Hebrew slave, meant that the person wanted to have a certain economical, financial comfort. So he used to sell himself. Or the idea was that if he stole, so he has to pay back. But if he has to pay back, that does not mean in any way that he has no rights anymore, that we're going to enslave him, that we're going to torture him. He has rights, and he will work, and he will pay back, because the money that he owes, he will pay back how? By working, by paying back society. But after he pays back society, that's it. He's free to go. So it's great. It's an amazing idea that the Torah is giving us. In a sense, what is it?
Private jail.
What is it?
It's a private jail.
It's a private jail. But I would look at it as a rehab center. It's the first rehab center that we find in history. Rather than to put someone in jail, where many times what happens is, you could hear it in the news, you could see it, people leave jail and they do the same thing again. This is basically building up the morale of this person and telling him, you are, you have rights and we want you to succeed. And how do we want you to succeed? Come, work for us. For now, you're not going to get paid because you have to pay back what you stole. However, this will give you self-esteem. Self-esteem to know that you could work, that you could gain money, that you could go back after you to your family and get a job. So imagine, it's an amazing idea. And even for the Ama Ivriya, for the maidservant, the Hebrew maidservant, the fact is she could have had even more rights than the male servant. Why? Because if she was at the age of maturity where she could get married, then the master was mechuyav, was obligated to take her as a wife or to give his son, to give her to his son as a wife. Being a wife of a master who has money meant comfort. Has to treat her as a wife. Has to give her whatever she needs. And thank God, a wife there's things that she needs that you have to provide her with. As Jews, we know, and the Rambam says, it says in Halakha, in Jewish law, the Torah speaks about it, she'era kisuta ve'onata lo igra. 3 major things that we have to give a wife. She'era kisuta ve'onata. All financial needs have to be covered by who? By the husband. When someone is getting married, the rabbi, it's a serious thing. The rabbi is sitting down with him and it reads him the ketubah. And in the ketubah, what is written in the ketubah? In the contract, in the Jewish contract. Says there clearly that I, as a husband, obligate myself to give her, to support her financially, and so on and so forth. And the rabbi asked the question, says, are you sure you want to do this? This is serious. Yeah, I want to do it. Okay. You have to know what's written inside it. It's like a legal contract. When you are about to sign a legal contract, what do? You read everything. Same thing here. Right? And some communities, what they do even more than that. In some ketubot, by the way, as a side note, in some ketubot, it's written, V'nishba hatan. The Chatan takes an oath. And whoever the Mesader Kiddushin, or whoever officiates, the rabbi officiates, even shakes his hand. The idea of shaking hand also is what? Is the idea of agreeing to what's written in the Ketubah. So this maidservant, this woman, imagine, one day she's a maidservant, the next day she could become what? A princess. Having a nice house, having everything financial. So this is what the parents or the father used to do sometimes in order for to ensure a better future for his daughter.
Did it happen? Do we know?
That what? That women used to.
Yeah.
For sure, it happened. For sure, it was very common at that time to happen. So it's something that is amazing. On the other hand, after all, the idea of being sold as a slave is also for the person himself. Okay, he has the rights and so on and so forth. However, he has to understand that he did something wrong and he has to pay back society for that. And let me read you what had to go through his mind. On the one hand, for example, the funds gained by the servant sale are used to compensate the victim of the original theft for his loss. That's one thing. So he, for example, he stole $10,000. So he has to work and gain the and give back this work of $10,000. So if he gains, for example, $15 an hour, you make the calculation, $15, he works 8 hours a day, and then after that he pays back. So imagine, he's working, what is going through his mind? Wow, I'm working 8 hours. Where's my pay? I don't get paid. Why? I did something wrong. But it's done in such a civil way that he understands, because we don't give it to him like in his face, like slapping, you did something wrong, or, you're gonna. There's a certain way of dealing with this person. This person, if he became a thief, at that time at least, it was because he needed money for what? In order to survive. So we have to treat him by, you know what, you did something wrong, but we know that you did it for a good reason. You had to survive. Therefore, you're going to pay back whatever you owe. However, it's going to be done with rights. That's number one. Number two, the thief is robbed of his independence as not only his physical labor, but the very fruit of his loins. Okay? And therefore, the very fruit of his loins become the possessions of another. Hopefully, this forcible loss of freedom will move the indentured servant to remorse as he considers his past actions and their effect upon his own condition. So he's going to think about it. The idea, again, it's a rehab center. On the one hand, he's getting a lot of rights. On the other hand, we're telling him you're not going to get the money. What is going through his mind? I did something wrong. I have to think about it and so on and so forth. Another thing is, Halakha mandates the assignment of the convict to a successfully functioning household. The thief thus spends the years of his servitude in an environment where he is surrounded not by other potentially any criminals, it's not that, but by the productive members of society. As he witnesses the positive choices made by those who populate his new world, he begins to learn of roads not taken in his own past, and therefore he makes steps towards a better future. Because what happens in our society? Someone is doing something wrong, he stole, what do you do? Take him to where? Prison. What's his entourage in prison? Other thieves like him. Torah doesn't want that. Because it won't help this person. It's not going to make him a better person when he comes out of it. Sometimes it does, maybe. You know what? You give him rights today and so on and so on. But the fact is, the Torah was extremely, even Torah chooses and tells us that if someone stole, fine. He'll be in a family. But it's not going to be any family. It's going to be a family where he'll see an example. And therefore, through the example, they're going to become role models for him. And because of that, what's going to happen? He's going to have, hopefully, a better future. Okay. Another thing. Um, the fact is, I think it seems right. Psychologically, the Torah is extremely careful when it comes to how to treat someone else. A few years ago, there's a movie that came out, an amazing movie, based on a true story. Actually, the woman in the movie, the teacher in the movie, came to Vancouver. She spoke in a function, Jewish function here, and I met her. What is Freedom Riders? It's talking about a school. I believe it, I think it is in New York, in a bad neighborhood. And teachers who were there either couldn't last, and they were like mistreated by the kids, the crime, and you name it, they had it. Till this woman came, a Jewish teacher. And slowly but surely, she changed the perspectives of these kids in her class. Most of them didn't think that they will have a bright future. Some of them, their brothers, their family was involved in drugs and crime, you name it. And how did she do it? First of all, she treated them as human beings. She treated them with respect. She gained their respect. And in the movie, you see what do you see in the movie? You see that she spoke with them about humanity. She spoke with them about the Holocaust, something that they didn't know about. And eventually, they studied about a certain Holocaust survivor, and they were able to bring this Holocaust survivor to their school after they learned about their lives. And then they started to write about their experience and so on and so forth. It's an amazing story. Well, a few years ago also I saw along the same lines a certain principal. He's a Chabad Chassid, a principal in a New York, in a really not a good neighborhood. And he was able to change everything in the school, in the perspective of the kids there. Why? Again, the way he treated them. And extremely important. This is what the Torah is teaching us. And that is why, coming back to the question, why does the Torah start with these laws? Simply to teach us that when it comes to civil laws, it starts with how you treat someone else. And in this case, what are we talking about? How are you going to treat someone who you are buying or was sold to you? Someone who you are buying or is sold to you has rights. Why does he have rights? Because he was created in the image of God as you did. And you cannot, as Jews, you can't treat someone else. A human being, you have to treat him as a human being. Even if he's someone who stole, who did things that were not right. Still, the fact is, as a human being, you treat him that way. And sometimes it's something that we, as human beings, we forget. Why? Because if someone doesn't look like we do, or doesn't act like we do, or doesn't have the same observance as we do, we judge him. This is human nature. Torah is telling us, First of all, put this aside. He looks different than you, he stole, whatever. Doesn't make any difference. The fact is, he's a human being. And as a human being, you have to treat him with respect. share with you a story that happened a few years ago. A story that happened in Israel. It was during the second Lebanon War. There's a really a tzaddik, an amazing, pious Jew by the name of Rav David Grossman. Rav David Grossman is the chief rabbi of Migdal HaEmek. Migdal HaEmek was really a place that was full of crime. A lot of people impoverished, stealing, whatever, you name it, they had it there. So when he first came to that town, even though you look at him, his appearance, you could look him online, he looks like he was born in Yerushalayim. He's what, as we call him, Yerushalmi, the Yerushalmi Jew, with the peot and the hat and the long thing. Oh, a Jew, a real. They used to call him the discotheque rabbi, because what he used to do is, as a young man, he used to go to the discotheques in Migdal HaEmek and just sit down with them and schmooze with them and tell them, you know, I'm here for you, I'm your brother, come with me, whatever. Slowly but surely, completely changed the whole image of Migdal HaEmek. Today, he has thousands and thousands of Talmidim, really a great man. So the story goes that during the second Lebanon War, Rav Grossman gets a phone call. On the line, there is someone who introduces himself. He says, my son and all these pluga, all these group of friends of soldiers, about to go into Lebanon, but they don't know yet when they're going to go. So they have a few free days, but you know, they are ready to go. Unfortunately, where they are, there's a limited amount of water, showers, food, and so on and so forth. Their morale is not good. Is it possible for you, Rabbi Grossman, to take care of them for a few days? Grossman doesn't hesitate on the spot, says, please send a message that they are more than welcome to come to Migdal HaEmek. I'll take care of them. That night, the whole group, he finds out that they're going to come. He makes sure that the public swimming pool is free. He makes it free. They come, they go, they swim, they get a shower, they're happy. He makes for them a whole big, huge barbecue. He brings some music, and some of these people, some of these Israelis, they were from kibbutzim, not connected at all to any Judaism, to any rabbi, to anything. But the fact is, he didn't judge them. They are human beings. He gave them, they had a band, music, and he gave them words of encouragement. And he told them about their task and how important it is. And what they're doing to protect their country. Their morale changed completely. More than that, he got a phone call as they were there from a certain gvir, a certain donor from France, who was supposed to donate a Sefer Torah to the institution of Rav Grossman. And this man tells Rav Grossman, the Sefer Torah is ready. Rav Grossman told him, send it right away. Why? Before these soldiers go to war, we'll make sure that each one of them will have a letter in the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah was shipped, got to Migdal HaEmek before they went to Lebanon. Each one of them dedicated a letter in the Sefer Torah. And after that, the morale was amazing, great. They were about to leave to Lebanon. Rabbi Grossman accompanied them till the border. He gave each one of them a Tanakh, a Bible, hugged them, kissed them, told them, Chazak ve'ematz, may you go in peace, come back in peace. and they were in touch with him. And he found out when they're going to come back. And thank God all of them came back safe. And as they came back to Israeli territory, who was there waiting for them? Rav Grossman was there. And this is because he did not judge them. He is someone who is full of ahava, of love towards human beings. Because the same way that he was created in the image of God, he knew that each one of them was created in the image of God as well. And this is what the Torah is teaching us. The Torah is telling us that, and this is what we could apply to our day and time, our society, because we don't have all these laws today. But the fact is, we have to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God gave us these laws in order to protect the rights of other human beings who are not as fortunate as we are. And you could argue and tell me, maybe that's when it comes to an Eved Ivri, to a Hebrew slave, a Hebrew servant. What about an Eved Kenani? We still have time, so we could speak about it. Eved Kenani, a Canaanite servant, had also rights. And I'll read you some of the rights that they had as well. They were not the same rights as the Jewish Eved, servant, but however, listen to the rights that they had. Unlike an Eved Ivri, an Eved Kenani is physically sold to a master and becomes that master's property. An Eved Kenani can be bought and sold from household to household, and the Eved basically could have this transfer upon the master's death. He could